Hi, my name is Brian Jones, and I'm the owner of BME Therapy Associates and the creator of the FERNS method. So today I'm going to talk to you about something very important because a lot of couples deal with this issue. And in fact, it almost becomes something that can tear relationships apart. So I'm going to be a little bit technical for 1 second because what I'm going to talk to you about today is what I'm going to call hyperbolic language in relationships. So of course you're going to say to me, well, Brian, what do you mean by hyperbolic language in relationships? Well, I'm going to tell you like this. A hyperbolic relationship is when we use over-generalizing words. Because ultimately, when we start to overgeneralize in our language, we start to communicate specifically this thing that we don't mean to communicate, because we start telling people that we start creating indictments about them, verdicts, and we really just talk from what we call our barriers. So let's jump on into this, and I'm going to show you exactly what happens, because then the goal for this particular talk is going to be about ensuring that we're stepping away from what we're going to call our hyperbolic language and stepping into our language which takes into account the pros of our partner and see them as human, not as people that constantly disappoint us, or the language that we give in terms of our verdicts of them. So let's start with this here. If you check out my little square here, this is how we can understand the way people talk. So we use 4 different common phrases whenever we're talking about our partners or in some kind of conflict. We talk about always, never, at least once, and rarely. So you probably see these come up a lot in your relationship, because you may say something like, you always tend to think that I am lazy, or you never give me any appreciation. Okay, I know at least once you've did this, but it's not regular, right? So we can minimize. And then finally, oh, you rarely take me out. So if you notice those 4, now we're stepping into a certain parameter of relational communication. So how do we break this down? Well, 2 things. Always and rarely, they're always going to be contradictory, right? So if you say somebody always takes me, always ignores me, then you can't say they at least once ignore me. The same with never and at least once. If they never take you out, then that idea that one day where they did take you out means that never isn't true. But why do we get stuck in these spaces? It's because we have certain expectations. And if you remember from my last talk, I talked about the formula: impact or pain equals the gap between expectations and reality. The greater the gap between expectation and reality, the greater the pain or pleasure, depending on the nature of the circumstance. Well, what happens? An expectation is broken. And after an expectation is broken, what do we start to see? We see it broken again and again and again. So eventually it calcifies into this always or never language. So then once it calcifies into that always and never language, or rarely to never, then we start to see these little examples of how our partner can let us down, but not only just let us down, it's enough for us to create a verdict about what they did. So let's say for one day you were disappointed because your partner came home late. Then they came home late again the next day. Maybe a week later, came home late again and never called. Eventually, you go from day 1, day 2, day 3 to they never or they always. And we can kind of interchangeably put those together. But what are we really talking about? We're talking about the way we develop evidence against our partner in conflict. And that evidence points to the verdict that we're trying to understand. And this is what we call attributions. We call it attributions because we start creating stories about our partner. We start creating generalized statements that puts our partner into the light and category that we want. Now, why do we do this? We do this because we are inevitably dealing with this issue of, as soon as the body or the brain starts to realize the nature of a stressor, the brain starts going into its protective mode. And its protective mode deploys its individual defenses. So our feelings and fears, these are our messages. And we start getting these danger signals because of our feelings and fears. We have broken expectations. And so those expectations become more and more calcified into the nature of resentment because we start to see that they're never going to meet our needs. And then we react. And in a later episode, we're going to talk about our reactions. But for right now, we're going to suffice it to say that we react in 4 primary ways: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So when we react in a way that we are going to defend our character. We're going to defend our disposition. And then finally, the ghosts of relationships past. Not just intimate relationships, personal relationships, familial relationships. All of those relationships come back to haunt us in one foul swoop. And so when we see this in our partner, this is somebody that has gotten so deep inside of our world that it hurts when they harm us or we have to defend against it. So we have to protect ourselves as much as possible. So what I like to work with couples on is this idea of not just going in to defend, but really looking at the language that we're bringing in. If this person has harmed you a lot, even if it was more than 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, these are not indictments of always, but it does represent a pattern. And so patterns can be fixed. Remember, people rarely are fixed, but patterns are fixed. And so this is where I want y'all to really look at is the idea that we don't want to step into this way of creating verdicts, because as soon as we create a verdict and we put this as a truth, and I want to put a capital T there, capital T truth, then they're going to defend against it because they don't believe the same thing. And because you have a different perspective and then he or she has a different perspective, you're always going to be battling over facts. And so my question to you then would be, do you want to be right or do you want to be connected? Do you want to compile all of your evidence together so that both of you can come to the same verdict? Or do you want to suspend your evidence just for a minute and step into the realm of grace? And grace is the choice to suspend that evidence, the choice to choose your relationship, the choice to actually work with your partner in a way that promotes protection of the relationship, protection of the selves, and protection of the union that you both are building together. All right, I hope y'all found this helpful. I'm going to be back with another episode. Keep tuning in. And if you like what you see, please do hit that like and subscribe button. More to come. And I want you to join me for the next one. All right, y'all take care of yourselves.